Now, anyway, congratulations to the presentation. So during the course of my presentation, we are going to talk about 5 cases, both domestic and international cases. All of them were related to hacking, and I'm going to give you a short, the short summary or consequence. I'm not going to talk of womanizing because this would not be appropriate for men. I mean, talking about it would not be appropriate. And also, as a lawyer, I learned this thing that secrecy, legal secrecy, is very important. So this is better for ladies to leave this topic to ladies. Now, the first case was in the practice of our law office, and therefore we are not going to. I'm not going to reveal the name. We were not representing, by the way, the hacking party. We were representing the suffering party. Now, anyway, this guy was fired. However, even after being fired from the company, he was still very keen on following the destiny of the company. So he kept going back on the server, to the server of the company. Well, it was not a code breaking, it was just a password breaking, and he also had some passwords in mind, which passwords had not been changed. So he used those passwords and also broke some passwords and got into the server, and then copied the mails of the managers. He also had an access to the statistics and the business plan and everything. And then, as it normally happens, he became bolder and bolder, and then he was having correspondence with his former boss, and then he copied certain details of the correspondence of his boss that he managed to eavesdrop, and therefore, obviously, the bosses also knew that he had an access to these things. And then once he used his home Wi-Fi, probably he was drunk, but for 72 hours he was on the server, connected to the server, hooked up on the server for 72 hours again from his home Wi-Fi, so it was easy to detect then. As far as hacking is concerned, technically this is quite a simple case. However, legally speaking, the defense said that there is no direct evidence against the undisclosed person. But there's no direct evidence because no one stood by him when he committed the crime, or when he was committing the crime. I'm not telling you who the famous Hungarian defense lawyer was who came up with this argument. Obviously, the court just swept this away, and they had another defense saying that that someone used his Wi-Fi, broke his Wi-Fi, and this is why the IP address showed his IP address, because probably there was a drive-by hacking at his house. And also the forensic expert said that this was possible. We tried to convince the forensic expert to sort of realize that this was not really a practical thing, because this was for 72 hours. Now, a drive-by hacker would never be standing in front of your place for 72 hours, breaking your Wi-Fi, and then having an uninterrupted online link. Now, then obviously within 72 hours the laptop would, the battery would die. Then the forensic expert said that that you can use the battery of the car, but even the battery of the car would die. Then the forensic expert said that, yeah, but the engine was running. Yeah, but 72 hours, I mean, for 72 hours running engine, that's quite a lot. So anyway, it was very, very unrealistic. I mean, this defense argument. And unfortunately, the forensic expert was in favor of this defense argument. I don't want to hurt this person. This was a 60-year-old bloke who sort of liked the defendant and wanted to help the defendant with these arguments. And then there was another interesting argument, a defense argument, saying that there was a conspiracy against the defendant. This was actually a mid-sized Hungarian company, and that this mid-sized Hungarian company made this all up, coming up with false evidence, coming up with everything. Even the email address he used was probably made up, fabricated by the company, the former company, and the former bosses of this chab. So that probably even the bosses sent themselves this fabricated mail on behalf of this bloke who was the defendant. Now let's see what the court said, the independent Hungarian court. Now, the fact that there was no one standing by this guy when he was committing his crime, the judge said that yes, but there are quite a lot of cases, for example, even murder cases or homicide, when there's no one standing by the person committing the crime, carrying out the crime, and then still the person is after that accused and imprisoned. Although we know that there are people who sit down in rubber gloves in order to prevent their fingerprints leaving traces on the keyboard. Anyway, there's a basic principle, is that anything beyond reasonable doubt, only anything beyond reasonable doubt can be accepted that's the only thing that can be taken into account in the course of a sentence. Anyway, the court said that this was not realistic. I mean, that there was a drive-by hacking using, or Wi-Fi hacking using his Wi-Fi. Like, anyone standing there for 72 hours in the proximity of like 50 meters or 100 meters. We also initiated a site visit in order to see whether it was possible. However, the judge overruled this. And then the judge, as far as the third argument was concerned, the conspiracy argument, he said that at least 7 top managers should have been involved in that conspiracy, and they should have prepared for that conspiracy for over 6 months. Therefore, that again was not realistic and was not accepted by the court. Again, it's very interesting that this guy knew a lot of nicknames, knew a lot of other details, which was actually indirect evidence, considered to be indirect evidence. Therefore, this is what they used. So for a certain while, it appeared that with the participation of the forensic expert, the defense would be successful. However, it wasn't. Now, this was only to indicate that the Hungarian jurisdiction is still in its early childhood in this respect. Next case. This is the Solo case from the United States, U.S. versus Gary McKinnon. I don't know if you know Gary McKinnon. Pink Floyd wrote a song in order to prevent this guy from being extradited, because this guy is arrested in the UK and the US wants to have this guy back in the US. From 97, this guy attacked 97 computer networks, including smaller networks like those of the NASA, the US Air Force, US Army, Department of Defense, the DoD, and so forth. He stole op system files, deleted op system files, which caused the collapse of 2,000 computers, or the crashing of 2,000 computers in the military district of Washington, resulting in like $800,000 US of damage. Obviously, we know that the claims law in the U.S. is different, so 800,000 could have included certain emotional damage as well. Emotional distress is a very important element of. There are also punitive damages. However, this here was not important because this was not at stake. However, this chab, as it turned out later, he suffers from a certain syndrome, Asperger's syndrome, which is related to similar to autism. And therefore, he was searching for UFO files and UFO-related infos, because his pre-concept was that there's a lot of UFO encounters, and then these are kept secret. And he was also, referring to anti-gravity patents, because quite a lot of people think that the anti-gravity patents are already there and the technology is there. However, these things are not given not made public. So this guy was allegedly looking for these files and such information, and meanwhile he also deleted certain other op system files. Now the defense was quite interesting, because did he find information on UFOs and anti-gravity? Well, tonight over a beer I'll talk about that, and I'll also talk about womanizing, okay? Anyway, he did find, by the way, because he also had seen UFOs. And when this was also concealed, kept secret, then this was how he realized that this was a general practice. And he had this autist type of monofocal approach. Anyway, legally speaking, let's see the defense arguments. The defense said that even in these highly protected systems, there were certain machines that were not secured. There were no passwords, or the password was password. Therefore, it was very easy to break in. There were no firewalls in certain cases. And eventually, he also wanted to point out that there were so many security shortfalls and security shortfalls. Now, the reason why this is interesting as an argument is because this had a certain element of truth, because even Hungarian law says that unauthorized access is punishable only if the system has defense mechanism and they do work, they do function as well, so they are up and running. Therefore, they are not switched off, they are not paused, and they are not idle. And let me go further. The literature also says that such defense should also be effective. So, it's like when you do trespass. If trespass, you can only do trespass if there is a fence. And they say that it's not enough to have a fence which is like 1 meter high. You need to have a 2 meters high fence, because that's only proper defense or effective defense. But what is effective defense? These are all relative and not absolute categories. It's like the commentary code. This is not detailed. So these are very much related to the given situation, and these are very much relative to the situation and to the case. However, if we look at this specific case, the systems of the U.S. military, the U.S. Armed Forces, so the defense has to be effective as well. Having like password as the password, this is like leaving the gate open. And also you have a script above saying that please come in and do trespass.
Okay, the next case, the U.S. versus the Soviet Federation, Alexei Ivanov and Vasily Gorshkov, who were looking for jobs in the U.S. and for this purpose they broke into a couple of job portals just to see the rivals and whatever. What really happened was that they changed the CVs of the rivals, and so there were a lot of other steps that they made in addition to just looking. And companies like Speakeasy or Nara Bank or Central National Bank were also targeted for extorting money. I've seen cases like this. We represented the Hungarian Financial Institute, and the Russians tried very softly. They sent an email that they said, we like Hungarian banks, looked at your pages, and we found a few security issues with them. If you pay us $100,000, we'll tell you what these issues are. Obviously, you pay in advance. So you couldn't know whether they were meaning it or not. They were actually dealing in this. They were having a business on this. So they may have been totally right about what they said. What the FBI did was a sting operation. They gave job offers to these people and also gave them the task to crack a system. Their own system was somebody else's, and then this was followed by an interview. And since the cracking was very high level, they felt very boastful during the interview how good they were, and then they were given another computer to crack, and the FBI was monitoring the keyboard. So these people were using their home computer remotely to break into a allegedly target machine, and their passwords were then harvested by the FBI. And the FBI downloaded from their home computers 2.7 gigabytes of data. And why is this important? This whole area is very international, and the Russian authorities became a bit nervous about the FBI doing this sting operation. And they were partly right, because the G8 Treaty from 1997 clearly states that in cases like this, the U.S. would have had to contact Russian law enforcement organizations and involve them in the ploy, in the game, so as to allow them to get their people out. This is not written in these words in the treaty, but this is the purpose. The U.S. says they tried to contact the Russians, who did not pick up the phone, so it was pretty high level. And the Russians said, no, they didn't try to contact us. The gist is that this is a very fast operation, and the Americans finally successfully argued using precedents dating back to the 1700s to real buccaneers on high waters. This would only interest a lawyer, and the U.S. successfully. So what the U.S. was arguing was that obviously they managed to get the two guys' passwords, and while those two guys were sitting there at the fake interview, the 2.7 gigs were downloaded. So it was a very, very fast operation. Speed was of the essence, because they might have thought themselves that, geez, they'll get to my computer, it might have deleted the data. So this was not days or weeks, it was a question of half an hour. And this was the only reason why they could capture those data. So this was a successful argumentation. And also the US did not use the proofs until they contacted the Russians and didn't accept this way of getting the proofs. And the US only proceeded once these two conditions were met. So they did their best actually to meet the G8 Treaty prescriptions. So this is a very important lesson from this case. Absolute urgency may overrule cooperation requirements. The next case is the United States versus Jesse Williams McGraw. This is a 2009 case. It's still going on, so it's not. There's no sentence yet. The interesting thing will be that the persons were caught before committing the crime. He was a Jesse Williams McGraw was a security guard of Dallas Hospital and a gang leader of a hacker gang. And they were using the hospital computers for building a botnet. And they planned to execute a DOS attack for the 9th of July 2004 that they called the Devil's Day. And what they wanted to achieve was to shut down the systems of multiple hospitals, causing problems in medicine supply, air conditioning, disruption, whatever. Very laudable. This is what they wanted. But they committed the mistake to boast about this on YouTube, putting up video screenshots about screens of about the insides of cracked hospital computers, and then they also wrote about the air conditioning interfaces, like as if they had already been inside the hospital. They tried to cover their faces, but not well enough. Okay, on one of them, on a personal identity card, a fake one, could be seen on the video. It was, although it was a fake, but it carried his face, so this was the hook that got him. So you should not do that from your home if you're trying to boast about a crime not even committed. What's more, they also boasted to a person who was active, who was working in ID security, and he immediately reported the event. What is important in this case is that that hacking preparations in and for themselves are not punishable according to criminal law. So if they commit it, it's punishable. If you prepare to commit a crime, for instance, if you bought a computer to do hacking, it's not punishable, even if you wanted to get into a foreign system. But there are cases where even preparations are punishable, like preparation for actions disabling hospital operation, air conditioning systems, etc. These cases are punishable even if they were only preparations, and liable and subject to up to 20 years in prison. Another case is terrorism. There are very few such things that for which even the preparation for it is punishable, but these are. This is why these people could be jailed in a very early phase before the attack was executed. The last one I want to talk about is the hacker crawl case. This was a pretty famous case. This person actually was doing white hat hacking, and out of the goodness of his heart, he actually cracked Obama's and Britney Spears' websites, changed their profiles, downloaded the Twitter's company strategy. When you enter your Twitter account, you suddenly realize you have 2 pets. You only had 1 yesterday, the last time you checked. So this is what this person did, and additionally, he also got access into Twitter's company system and downloaded strategy data. The method was interesting. He is not a really well-trained hacker, but very shrewd. He used, for instance, he collected everything about Obama and Britney Spears, all existing data that he could lay his hands on, collecting their pets' names, family members' names, all birth dates he could collect, and he handled them, managed them in an aggregated database, using these data to try to guess the passwords. Many people use the same username password for all the things that he needs it for. He doesn't. People don't want to remember 20 or 100 passwords and whatever. So if you crack a person's iTunes account, you can reasonably hope that the same username password will be good for other accounts of that person. He also use the fact that there are control questions for forgotten passwords. If you forget your password, you send an email requesting password resend. Then they ask what's your pet name or whatever you agreed on with them, and he knew all the words, all the names, all the pets, and birthdays and whatever. So he used all these data. He wasn't technically well prepared, but we did had a pretty professional database, and he tried a lot, and he tried his hands on multiple celebrities, not only Britney Spears. Legally, however, defense said that this was a harmless action by a nice pirate. He called himself actually nice pirate, a likable one too. He even blogged about to provide help. Don't take notes here because all the presentations are on my Facebook wall, so you can download them. I'll check you back for you to be able to do so. So this was the typical white hat hacker defense. He also wrote a tearful letter to Twitter. It's simply beautiful, although he wrote it in French. Excuse my English. Yeah, you can read. I published on Twitter. I believe this company will be going to places and make money by that. Security is a topic that has interested me for many years, and I want to turn my hobby into a career. Now, put up your hands who don't believe him. So this is a pretty typical story, and it ended well in that the jury accepted this defense. All he did was actually illegal access to the to a site that he broke in, and also what he did was he changed or deleted a couple of data. These are pretty simple and did not really cause any damage. But what is important is that even white hat hacking may go against local legislation, and then you may be subject to some nasty surprises, plus damages if applicable. So you should know your limits where you are working. And the non-legal conclusion is from this last case is that it might be worth the legal risk to get yourself a good a good job, if you can make sure that you do not transgress the limits until which you can go. Hacker Crawl was sentenced only to 5 months, and even that was suspended. But in exchange, he got 3 very, very good job offers, out of which he accepted 1 and is still having it. So this is the lesson. Thank you. And slides are on my Facebook wall. Enjoy your meal.